You've waited a lifetime to look better and feel better, and now here's your chance. Fitness Friday on WNDB. Call 239-0033 and have your questions answered on health, fitness, and a better life. Fitness Friday is brought to you by Bodez by Tasso & Company, 1140 West Granada Boulevard in Ormond Beach. And now, here's your host, Tasso Kyriakis.
All right, Dave Lang, welcome to Fitness Friday, everybody out there. And it's bike week. It's sort of be careful out there. It's wet, it's muggy, it's cold. You know, we've had a beautiful week, right? And the days that I'm going to work at the church helping park cars is going to be the two coldest days of the week.
When is that?
You know, tonight and tomorrow.
Oh, but don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
The Ouzo and the Metexai will keep you warm.
No, we don't do that when we're doing that. The festival we do that. But
okay. I got you.
So, Dave, I really want to talk about a couple of things today. You know, Bodez has always tried to stay on the cutting edge of what we do. And you know, really, I got the opportunity to see Al's guest, Doc Stoner, as he was on the way out. Doc Stoner was actually my first cardiologist and gave me my first stress test. And I think he enjoyed it a little bit too much when he gave me my stress test because he said, you know, Tasso, these treadmills are like your workouts. It's like they keep going no matter how good a shape you're in, kind of deal. And I go, oh my! I said, So I'm in for a hard one, right? So they ran me until I couldn't run anymore on the test. So I remember that. That was my first stress test I'd ever had way back when I was 30 years old. And Don Stoner has done an awesome job for Halifax Hospital. And I was talking to him. You know, I said, you know, I find myself on the other end of your comments about the statins, Dr. Stoner. I said, I'm sort of become the anti-statin guy with my clients and with the radio show and the things I promote. And he says, he says, definitely when you take intervention and you can do it with exercise and diet, that's certainly a great scenario to do it with.
Right. Nobody wants to live on Staten Island.
Right. And I was talking about some of the things that we've done. And so, you know, today I want to talk about two basic topics. We're going to get a call, hopefully, from a gentleman from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I just was, in regards to our Fitness on Demand program that I'm going to talk about today. But, you know, this is the first Friday of Lent for Catholics and Christians alike, and we tend to look at Lent as a period that we're going to do. We're going to do I'm going to give something up, and really, you know, I wanted to really spend a moment and talk about Lent and this role or this theme of fasting, which seems to have gotten turned around, you know, and really, you know, we've talked about fasting. And first I want to talk about fasting from the standpoint of two perspectives. Number one perspective is to talk about it from the standpoint of there are two kinds of fast. There are fasts that are truly deprivation fast, where we do things like we have only a water fast or only a juice fast, or we only eat certain things, or we don't eat anything at all. Those are fasts that if you're trying to build lean body tissue in that, they're not great fasts for you to do. And even with the health benefits of intermittent fasting that we've talked about with Dr. Daniel Pomp on this show before, where we know that the telomeres, which are the indicator to the aging process on the end of chromosomes, they look like the little plastic part on the end of a shoelace. And the longer they are, the longer you have to live, basically. When that plastic comes off, that telomere is completely spent, it's time to go.
Wow.
So we can actually look at our aging process by those telomeres when, you know, they have the technology to look at that. Well, fasting actually preserves those telomeres. So we know intermittent fasting has a benefit to that. Now, Dr. Otto F.H. Buckinger is a gentleman that has worked in healing clinics. And he says fasting is this royal road to healing anybody who agrees to take it for recovery and regeneration of the body. And you know, their mind and their spirit. It is a complete concept. So, you know, as we approach Easter, and, you know, think about back through time, we've seen the movie The Passion come out. Now we have seen the movie The Son of God come out. Yeah. Back in the 60s, you remember King of Kings came. I remember going to the Beach Street Theater to see King of Kings. Sure. And, you know, as an Orthodox Christian, you didn't really go to the movies during Lent, but our priest was going to allow us to go to this because it was a religious movie and carried the theme of Christ's passion. So it's a time when we refocus from a spiritual and a mental standpoint, and the food is part of that. Now, the food aspect for many people has really gotten to where it is what do you call it? It has gotten to where it's gotten out of hand because we look at it and we go, oh, I'm going to give up soda or I'm going to give up candy. And really, fasting or Lenten fasting should be looked at as a major change to our eating. It's a great time to start a fitness program. It's a great time to take advantage of our $14 offer and start your membership and that. But first of all, the original religious basis of fasting was to talk about two things. Number one was to return people to a state of paradise, to a state of Adam and Eve in paradise in the Garden of Eden. And the reason for that was the early Orthodox Christians, or the early Christians, I should say, not Orthodox Christians, because the Catholicism and everybody was one Christian faith at that point. They looked at this as a beautiful way to take and say, we're not going to kill anything. So we've reproduced what was in the Garden of Eden. There's no killing going on. So they didn't eat anything that came from bleeding animals. Okay? So now this produced that. The second part of it was that if you stopped eating meat and you stopped eating cheese and dairy and that type of thing, you were not buying the higher priced things that you could buy. So you were now eating beans and rice and vegetables and fruits as your diet. And now what we did is we then began to say, all right, I have money left over. So now if I'm going to be a real Christian, I'm going to help my fellow man.
Sure.
So we would take that money we saved and we would go and we'd have projects to help people, to feed the poor, to build housing and that stuff like that. So those were the two, from a Christian standpoint, those are the two reasons of fasting. We now know very well that fasting has a huge role to the disease continuum that we've talked about for so long on this show now. For almost 2 years, we're coming up on a 2-year anniversary talking about this, where we see people through the sugar and the processed foods that they eat, through their chronic microtrauma that they put on their body with smoking, with drinking, with stress, and with all those things that go on. What we've seen is we increase our chronic cytokine activity and cause inflammation. If you'll remember, we started a 3-point plan to show people that here's the 3 things we really need to understand about our health. Number one is that inflammation is the cause of all chronic diseases. Number 2 is that stress is the mother driver of all inflammation. And number 3, that through the 3-prong attack of good nutrition, strength training exercise to build our muscle tissue, and cardiovascular exercise that gives attention to our aerobic capacity, we now can reverse the role of stress and the role of inflammation. Well, in the eating process, when people come and they're really ill, we come and we help them a lot of times use a fast to begin to reverse this, because we have to attack those chronic diseases. The solution is not to have medicated control of these symptoms and markers that we have. And that's what we find ourselves doing in our modern day medical community. We've gone to the panacea of the medical industry, right. Because we've made it was the easy pill for us to swallow kind of thing. So, all right, Garrett's on the phone?
Yes,
okay,
sir.
So let me make this transition. Let me take a moment to make this transition. So I'm going to come back and talk about fasting, because I also want to talk about something that's becoming very popular, is the Daniel diet, especially in many religious communities right. around. I see a lot of the Protestant churches beginning their New Year's and stuff. Well, there's a great health benefit to the style of eating that comes from the Daniel diet and the choice of those foods. Okay, and it is, as I started to talk about the fasting cycle that many people will do, that they call Lent, and some people take Lent and say, well, I'm going to give this up. Look at the bigger picture of your health, and not just take away something, but add something into your daily life, whether it be exercise, a walk, maybe it's smoking that you give up. As Don Stoner talked earlier on the program, one of the major things, 67% reduction in all risk of all cancer if you don't smoke. Okay, now I'm gonna sort of turn the wheels here and turn to what Bodez is doing to make it easier for people to get their exercise in and get their routines in. As you know, Bodez is a program, a fitness center that has 3 very specific geographic areas. We have the Bodez Express area that is typically what every health club looks like that you go in, or what people would call a gym. Okay, I don't like the word gym, because the word gym to me means there's a guy with a tank top and a cutoff shirt, and there's some girl dressed up with the really tight-looking stuff on, and they're over
where
there.
is she?
And they're over there, and they're grunting and groaning and doing their routine, and they're flexing in the mirror. To me, that's what I see as a gym. As a fitness center or a health center that Bodez is more specifically a personalized fitness center, what we do is we have that component because that provides a lower point of entry financially to people. So that's our typical $29 a month membership, okay? And you've got everything. You've got your knowledge machines, you've got your free weights, you got your hammer, you got your traditional cardiovascular training area. Then we have our Bodez Coach program, which is our most popular program, which is our supervised exercise. That's where we start you with our Smart Start program. We have our appointment with fitness that gives you one-on-one attention to showing up for your workout. 40% of people that get enrolled in a fitness program never show up beyond their third workout that they're going to do. 65% of people who purchase memberships don't even show up after they buy a membership, which is, who could think of something like that?
Throwing money away.
Okay, yeah, throwing money away. No wonder the $10 facilities are such attractive things, because guess what? You get $10 a month into your budget, and then what do? You go, hey, I'm a member of a health club. I never go, but I'm a member of a health club. And the health club owner, he's pulling in 6,000 people's $10 a month. So it's a great business concept. But when it gets down to
I save
the
money by watching the fitness channel on cable. I don't even.
I
can watch the fitness channel.
The keyword was watching,
I
Dave.
can watch it all day.
But that's not true. You're active down there at the Y. And we know now today, and what we've been teaching people over the last couple of years is you don't need 30 hours a week of exercise. You don't need 5 days a week. The concept that we promote is 2 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week, get that aerobic exercise in. And now what we're going to do is provide a better way to do that from the standpoint of exercise. And that is that we're going to be offering a program called Fitness on Demand, which is going to complement our third program as well, our one-on-one program.
Cool.
So when we look at this, we looked at many years ago, and I'm going to bring Garrett in. Garrett, welcome to Fitness Friday.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, Garrett, I did a lot of talking, but I really didn't tell people what we're doing. We have two very large technological advancements to the world of fitness and training planned for Bodez Personalized Fitness this year. The first of which is the bringing in and the installation of Fitness on Demand, which is actually occurring at the club right this moment as we speak. Your guys were getting ready to arrive and go in and start getting ready to set it up. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it's one of the major things. And the history on this is that when Bodez was first founded, we were an 800 square foot club that did nothing but one-on-one training. And then as we did the one-on-one training, people came to me and said, we like being in one-on-one, but we don't want to do it year-round. Couldn't you build a club around your club? So we added another 12 or 1,400 square feet, and we had a very traditional Nautilus fitness training center where it was a circuit training basis with machines. Then the third phase of our growth came in the late 80s, early 90s, and people said, hey, listen, why don't you add a little more aerobic stuff here, some more treadmills and things like that. Because at that time, in those days, we had one Stairmaster, one Life Cycle, one treadmill, one rowing machine. So the advent of a concept called cardio theater, where you had all the TVs and it tied right to your machine, and now we actually have the personal viewing screens in our club on about 40 of our 70 pieces of cardio equipment. So now, and then the next move after that, we put a group exercise program in. Well, in 2005, I had a space crunch, and I looked at my business and I said, well, what do we do best? What can we be the best in the world at? What are we really known for? And it was strength training and weight loss. So unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, we took group exercise, the Les Mills concept, the step concept, the spinning. We took all of that out of our club. Much to my chagrin, it was a great business decision profit-wise at the initial outset, but it wasn't a great decision from the standpoint of having people come into your club. So, and I remember back in the old days, I used to think of like, hey, listen, if I got a big 50-inch TV and I had a really nice, what do you call those recorder, VHS recorder, I could buy all these videos and I could put the videos in and people could watch whatever exercise class they want. Well, technology drives us along, and here we are in 2014, and we're putting a concept in called Fitness on Demand. And I might understand that you're the vice president over there, of course. Are you one of the developers of the concept?
No. There are several guys here much smarter than me that actually do the coding, but I do oversee the product development.
Well, what we look at the expectations of doing, one of the frustrations for running a group exercise class at Bodez for me was that, you would have an instructor teaching a class, and it was a good class, right? And here's the challenges I would hear. Oh, I really like that class, but I'd rather have so-and-so teach it. Or they'd say, oh, I really love her as a teacher, but I really wish you were teaching this class. Or they go, oh, I can't make 5 o'clock. If you just had the class at 5:45. Well, the cost of having all those instructors and all that music was horrendous. So what we have done is we have partnered with you guys at Fitness on Demand and tell people a little bit about what Fitness on Demand is and now what it's going to bring. Because I tell people, look, it's going to be your class on your schedule with the best instructor in the country.
Yeah, most definitely. Tasha, you couldn't have said it any better. Really, you summed that up nicely. At the core of group fitness, I think people have always been excited about being able to participate in a group environment, and they're motivated by that, and there's accountability. But supply and demand has been one of the biggest challenges of group fitness. And I can't tell you the number of clients that we talk to that say, I started this concept of my own. You should pay me licensing fees. I had a TV, and I had DVDs and VHS tapes, and for whatever reason, the industry has been kind of flirting with this concept, but it never really caught on. And I think that's because there's a big difference between having a media player and creating that group fitness experience that drives people and motivates people to want to come in and participate in something in a group. And that's what Fitness on Demand is all about. So at its core, it's a kiosk-driven system that allows the club operator like you to obviously pre-schedule classes at designated times throughout the day, but also turn over the ability to your member base to come in and select from hundreds of classes in an on-demand fashion whenever that space is free.
And let's tell people a little bit about how it's delivered. Give me the concept, because, when we taught group exercise at Bodez, we basically had maybe 7 to 8 different classes we taught, and we offered 30 classes a week. Dawn Beck, who is, or actually Dawn Hansard, I'm sorry, I always want to call her by her maiden name. Dawn Hansard, who was my group exercise director back in the day, is still there with me and is going to run this program. So she takes on a role that she's very familiar with, and she told me, she said, "Listen, Tasso," she says, "what classes do we want to offer in our schedule?" I said, "I don't know that." I said, "That's you to look at those classes." And she said, "Well, there's so many of them. There's 122 classes to choose from." And what we will be offering when we initially open will be somewhere in the range of 60 to 80 classes that a person can take. And then from there, we'll add classes as we add the appropriate equipment. But tell us sort of the span of the type of classes. And as I understand it, in the package that I've purchased a contract with you guys on, like I see on the TV, I see this thing, Daily Burn, getting promoted to people. We actually have that as part of our program, right? A small part.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, they're a very popular content provider within our library of classes, and it's very, very comprehensive. Like you said, today there's roughly over 120 unique individual classes, and that I want to touch on just for a second, because even if you look at some of the largest facilities in the country that are offering 100, 150, 200 classes per week, if you slice that schedule and segment it, you'll notice that there's probably no more than 20 to 25 unique genres or formats, and then the more popular classes, of course, are replicated throughout the week. Well, starting from day one at Bodez, you're going to find over 120 unique formats, and and we add new, as you know, Todd. So we add new content to the system every month. It just happens. It downloads as a background process, so that for your member base, you're always receiving and promoting new relevant content, and it's changing on a monthly basis. But right out of the gate, I mean, you can come in and honestly, when we started this project, after a couple of years, adding new content, as you can imagine, every single month, we really kind of were scratching our head going, how do we add more diversity, because it got so exotic. And we've got formats that go as short as 9 to 10 minutes long, and they're challenging classes, all the way up beyond an hour. So there's something for every time schedule. Of course, most of these classes will feature multiple instructors. You pointed out Daily Burn. It's a great example. A lot of times the Daily Burn format is using 3 instructors, where you'll have a center instructor who's modeling, say, an intermediate level of poses, and then you'll have one to the left and one to the right who will be a beginner and an advanced coach. So it's really very diverse, regardless of whether you're a beginner or somebody who's a seasoned group fitness veteran. Just come to the kiosk, come to the Fitness On Demand system, and you'll have hundreds of classes to browse, and chances are you're going to find a great workout, something that you really enjoy.
And let's talk a little bit about, we tend to get caught up in brands, like indoor cycling is called spinning to most people. It comes like, you walk in a fitness center today, and every selectorized machine you see is a Nautilus machine. Every tissue paper, you see is called a Kleenex. Spinning has been branded as indoor cycling, basically. So any kind of genre of that is an indoor cycle. Zumba is the brand for indoor dancing. Where will our members and our potential members and people who come utilize Fitness On Demand, where will they be able to see, or what will they be able to see as some of the brands that maybe they're familiar with, or are they all generic classes?
No. In fact, one of the things that makes Fitness On Demand unique is we don't get involved in the aspect of production. So we rely strictly on renowned, brand-leading content providers that already have a name recognition. So there are quite a few titles that are available, and every, obviously, facility has the ability to kind of customize those channels. But one we could touch on just for a second, in addition to Daily Burn, is the cycling category. And a lot of times people miss some of the unique environments and experiences that we can create with a digital system that you can't create necessarily in just a conventional instructor-led class. And the cycling category happens to be one of those that people find very, very popular. And we have 2 or 3 providers today that provide what we call destination-based cycling, where you get the opportunity just to kind of escape your day, avoid the mundane workout, and come in and travel to an exotic destination. As an example, you could be riding your bike in coastal New Zealand and have the opportunity to see some coastal views, tour some castles, just a really kind of cinematic experience. So we have those destination-based cycling classes from Virtual Active, who people may be familiar with if they've ever experienced my ride. Another provider is called Enduro Cycling. So really just a collection of some of the best cycling content shot from various locations around the world.
Well, I know that when I first got certified as a spinning instructor, I got certified and said, man, wouldn't it be cool to build a room? And then, like, if I say it's a climb, you're going to have this mountain, picture of a mountain that they're climbing up, So essentially, that's what you guys have done.
That's right. And again, we lean on the content providers out there who do this as their core business. So they're specialists, and they get great high-definition footage. It's really a lot of fun.
And Daily Burn's one we talked about. A friend of mine is the founder of Kettleworks. His program, the Kettleball program, is on there, which I'm not a big advocate of some of these things. But, this is to be, we have a belief system at Bodez. We have a set philosophy of training, of how we want to train our clients. If a person comes and says, listen, tell me what to do, then we're going to give a game plan. We're going to be able, in our one-on-one program, to have it specifically to their needs, to their medical history, all that. And then we build that program for them. Now, as they get more advanced, as they get over the fear of getting into a health club, and here's